The day started like any other in the bustling streets of Manila, with cars honking, vendors calling out their wares, and the air carrying the familiar mix of the sea and city dust. And among the crowd, Maria Santos walked with quiet confidence, holding a small microphone, ready to speak about the programs she had been tirelessly working on for her community. A woman of modest means, but ambitious. Heart who had grown up believing firmly in the power of ideas and the importance of helping others. And today would test not just her resolve, but also the patience she had cultivated over the years. Earlier that morning, she had received a message from the local news station inviting her for a live interview, and Maria had prepared carefully, thinking through what she would say, making sure her words were clear. Knowing her English was not perfect, often stumbling over certain phrases and tenses that came easily to others. Yet she knew her ideas mattered more than the words she used to express them, and with a deep breath and polite smile, she stepped in front of the camera, trying not to notice the faint smirk on the journalist's face. Jonathan Reyes, a seasoned broadcaster with a reputation for wit that often bordered on mockery, who had interviewed hundreds before, but raised an eyebrow at Maria, a subtle curiosity mingled with dismissive tone. And as the camera rolled, Maria began to speak. Well, I just want to say to the community, they are very, cooperative. Yes, cooperative. And we must help each other to succeed in our endeavors. The words genuine, filled with a sincerity that came from years of working alongside the people she cared about. Yet Jonathan could not hide the slight chuckle that escaped him. On live television, it seemed playful, but to Maria it stung like a quiet jab, and he repeated her words, emphasizing her pronunciation, adding, cooperative? Yes. Kite. Charming. While across the city, viewers tuned in, some entertained, some off, and many unaware of the subtle cruelty embedded in the broadcast. And on Facebook, the live stream began to fill with reactions. People commenting on Maria's English and the journalist's behavior. Did he just mock her? Wrote one user. Another typed, why are people laughing at her? Focus on what she is saying. And a small army of voices began to form, both defending and criticizing her, a digital crowd mirroring divisions of the real world. Yet Maria, standing with her microphone, felt the sting of laughter but refused to let it shake her. Smiling politely and continuing, yes, maybe my English is not perfect, but my ideas are clear. We need programs for our community to grow. I hope people focus on that. Her calmness in the face of mockery not going unnoticed, as Jonathan paused, momentarily uncertain, expecting stumbling words or nervous gestures, something to entertain him for a few seconds, instead seeing a woman whose resolve seemed unshakable and whose dedication radiated through every carefully chosen word, even if pronunciation faltered while the Facebook feed exploded. Comments flooding in faster than the platform could display them. Yes, Maria, don't let them mock you. One read, her English isn't wrong. It's her culture. Respect. Another, and another, typed. I'm sharing this. People need to hear her ideas, not just her accent. The contrast between the live broadcast and online response creating a strange tension. On television, Jonathan's smirk remained, a subtle reminder of the initial mockery. But online, Maria's message found allies, people seeing the value of her work beyond the surface of her English. As she continued speaking, Maria's passion began to shine. Speaking about community programs she had helped implement, small projects providing educational support to children, health awareness campaigns for families, and initiatives encouraging local entrepreneurship. Each idea delivered with clarity and conviction, and despite occasional stumbles over words, her meaning was unmistakable. Speaking of workshops, volunteer activities, and neighborhood cleanup drives, emphasizing that community success depended not on perfect language, but on collective effort and vision. While in the studio, Jonathan shifted uncomfortably, underestimating her, the initial laughter, the snide remark, and subtle mockery fading into irrelevance as Maria's words carried a weight he had not anticipated. Not merely a woman struggling with English, but a leader devoted for years to creating tangible change, and he tried to regain control of the narrative, asking about funding for her programs, hoping perhaps for another stumble. Yet Maria answered with patience, her voice measured, explaining small contributions from local businesses, volunteers, and community members, making a real difference. Speaking of challenges faced, bureaucratic hurdles, cultural biases slowing progress, her words painting a vivid picture of struggle, but also resilience. Every phrase stamped with authenticity, sincerity, transcending grammatical errors or mispronunciations. While social media reactions swelled, videos of her interview shared across platforms, comments multiplied, and hashtags trending, supporters highlighting commitment and dedication. Critics initially focusing on English, confronted with undeniable impact of her work. Discussions erupting online about substance over style, valuing ideas over accent, recognizing leadership in all its diverse forms, and even among those who had never met her. Maria's story began to resonate. Parents, speaking of wanting their children to see role models leading with integrity rather than polished speech. Teachers commenting on encouraging students to express ideas freely without fear of mockery. Local business owners admiring her tenacity, noting real change often comes from persistence rather than perfection. Back in the studio, Jonathan's tone subtly shifted. Questions, less sarcastic, more probing. Attempting to understand her approach. Asking about future plans, expansion of programs, ways public could participate. And Maria responded with detailed explanations outlining strategies, community engagement techniques, methods for tracking success of initiatives, clarity of vision eclipsing criticism of language skills. Live broadcast ended but story continued. Clips circulating online shared by thousands inspired not only by ideas but by grace and composure handling mockery. News outlets framing story not as linguistic failure but example of resilience. Intelligence leadership in face of condescension. Maria returning home feeling exhaustion and quiet satisfaction knowing battle only beginning. World had seen glimpse of work, dedication, capacity to communicate despite imperfections. Journalists smirk not defining. Actions, ideas, unwavering commitment defining her, sitting quietly, reviewing notes for community meetings, planning next steps. Days following messages pouring in from supporters nationwide. Teachers, students, parents, fellow organizers, inspired by story. Many sharing experiences of being underestimated because of language or social background. Finding hope and example. Narrative shifting. Public mockery. Transforming into movement. Conversation about inclusion, respect, and true measure of capability. First chapter marked by journalist S. dismissal. Concluding not in defeat, but quiet triumph. Of principle over prejudice, world witnessing stumble over words, but also heart, intellect, vision, mockery, sparking awareness. Awareness as seed of change. Night falling over Manila, with city lights reflecting on bustling streets, countless lives touched, challenges yet to overcome, opportunities ahead. Maria resting knowing tomorrow would bring new challenges, voices, critics, but also allies, supporters, renewed purpose story only beginning. Journey to prove actions and ideas matter more than perfection, already taking first step leaving. Indelible mark on everyone who witnessed it. After the initial broadcast, Maria's story spread like wildfire across social media, and although many applauded her courage and dedication, there were still those who doubted her abilities, questioning whether someone who struggled with English could truly lead meaningful community initiatives. The voices of skepticism and subtle ridicule persisted, creating an undercurrent of challenge that Maria had anticipated but had not yet faced head-on. She spent the following days walking through her neighborhood, visiting local centers, schools, and small businesses, observing firsthand the impact of her previous projects, taking note of successes and areas for improvement, all while the digital world continued to debate her competence. On Facebook groups and Twitter threads, people shared clips of her interview, some mocking her speech, others defending her, the comments flowing endlessly. She's a nice person, but can she really manage large programs? One user wrote, while another countered. It's not about perfect English, it's about results. Look at what she's already done. And Maria, though aware of the mixed opinions, did not allow them to dictate her actions. Instead, she focused on preparation, organizing her plans meticulously, meeting with volunteers, local educators, and civic leaders, ensuring every step she took was strategic and purposeful, knowing that actions spoke louder than words. She also recognized the importance of perception, so she practiced her public speaking diligently, working with mentors to refine her delivery without losing authenticity, determined to ensure that anyone observing her would focus on her message rather than her accent. Meanwhile, journalists and media outlets continued to follow her story, some intending to capture further moments of awkward phrasing, others genuinely interested in the community programs she was implementing. The tension between ridicule and respect created a complicated landscape. Maria navigated it with care, acknowledging the criticism but never internalizing it. She knew that proving her critics wrong would require more than words. It would require measurable change, tangible results, and the ability to inspire others to join her vision. Her schedule became increasingly demanding, traveling from school to community center to local markets, coordinating workshops for children, seminars for parents, and training sessions for volunteers, each day filled with tireless effort. While the public watched, money impeded some skeptical, yet every action reinforced the reality that her commitment was genuine. And slowly, the narrative began to shift, as videos of her leading activities, speaking to groups, and personally helping families circulated online, showing a woman whose energy and dedication were undeniable. The contrast between her perceived imperfections in speech and the effectiveness of her work became increasingly apparent. Supporters on social media multiplied, sharing success stories, posting pictures of children learning, adults participating in skill-building workshops, families receiving health guidance. Each post further cementing Maria's reputation as someone who delivered results despite initial doubts. The journalist Jonathan, observing the unfolding events, began to recognize the limitations of Mockery. He saw that the clips intended to amuse or belittle now highlighted Maria's resourcefulness, creativity, and leadership. Even his colleagues commented on the transformation, noting that the story had evolved from one of lighthearted ridicule into a narrative of perseverance and effectiveness. Maria herself remained grounded, aware that genuine progress required patience. She carefully documented every initiative, measuring attendance, engagement, and outcomes, collecting testimonials from participants, knowing that concrete evidence would speak louder than anyone's opinion. As her programs grew, local government officials took notice. Some initially hesitant now extended invitations to collaborate, seeing the potential for Maria's initiatives to complement larger city development plans. She welcomed the opportunity, coordinating efforts with education officers, health workers, and community organizers, ensuring that her projects aligned with broader goals. And all the while, the social media conversation continued. Hashtags like #MariaPrus and #community with Maria trending. People posting before and after stories, sharing moments when Maria's guidance had changed lives. The growing digital support created a powerful network of advocates, amplifying her message and countering the remnants of ridicule from the initial broadcast. Despite the rising fame and recognition, Maria remained focused on the core mission: mentoring volunteers, encouraging young leaders, and emphasizing the importance of community collaboration. She spoke openly about challenges, transparency becoming a key part of her leadership, her authenticity resonating with those who had once doubted her. Parents expressed gratitude for the programs. Children smiled proudly as they displayed skills they had learned, and local educators commented on the noticeable improvement in student engagement and participation. As weeks turned into months, Maria's influence expanded beyond her neighborhood. Invitations arrived for her to speak at schools, universities, and civic organizations, offering her a platform to share her approach and inspire others. Each appearance further solidifying the reality that her impact transcended language barriers. Critics gradually found it harder to dismiss her, the focus shifting from her accent to her accomplishments. Jonathan, reflecting on his initial mockery, acknowledged that Maria's story had become one of resilience, strategy, and undeniable competence. He prepared a follow-up segment, this time highlighting the measurable outcomes of her programs, the difference she was making tangible for viewers. On social media, conversations evolved. Former skeptics shared their admiration. Educators and leaders discussed how language should never be the sole measure of ability, and ordinary citizens felt motivated to contribute to their communities, inspired by Maria's example. Throughout this period, Maria balanced her public appearances with direct engagement, knowing that the foundation of her success was rooted in relationships, trust, and consistent effort. She held workshops for volunteers, listening carefully to feedback, refining methods, and ensuring inclusivity so that every participant felt valued and empowered. Her hands-on approach reinforced the idea that true leadership required presence, commitment, and empathy, not just eloquence. As momentum built, media coverage, became more positive. Human interest stories, emphasizing her dedication rather than linguistic quirks, highlighting examples of how her programs were changing lives. Children excelling in education initiatives, families benefiting from health campaigns, and entrepreneurs gaining skills and confidence. These stories resonated far beyond Manila, reaching audiences across the Philippines and inspiring similar efforts in other communities. Maria's journey became a blueprint for overcoming prejudice, showing that perseverance, clarity of purpose, and compassion could overcome superficial judgments. The online dialogue continued to evolve, with supporters sharing videos, testimonials, and progress reports, forming an extensive network that validated Maria's work and inspired others to challenge assumptions based on language or background within the community. Maria's presence became a symbol of hope and action. Volunteers feeling motivated, children aspiring to emulate her dedication, and adults empowered to engage in initiatives they previously thought beyond their reach. She cultivated a sense of shared responsibility, emphasizing that everyone had a role to play in shaping the future. The journalist Jonathan No, preparing his segment, reflected on the irony of the initial mockery, recognizing that Maria's story was no longer about mispronunciations or linguistic idiosyncrasies, but about tangible impact, the strength of character, and the ability to inspire meaningful change. He approached the follow-up coverage with respect, highlighting her accomplishments and the visible transformation in the community. The live broadcast of the follow-up segment was met with overwhelming positive feedback, viewers praising her resilience and effectiveness, social media platforms buzzing with support, messages flowing in from all corners, young leaders expressing gratitude for inspiration, civic organizations seeking collaboration, and ordinary citizens sharing their own experiences of overcoming doubt. Maria, observing the growing influence of her work, continued to prioritize authenticity, focusing on the tasks that mattered most, guiding volunteers, coordinating with local authorities, and ensuring that the programs remained accessible and impactful. Her focus unwavering despite increasing recognition. As months progressed, the narrative of Mockery transformed into a powerful example of determination, the initial doubt and laughter now overshadowed by the proof of action, leadership, and vision. Maria's journey served as a testament that perseverance, integrity, and hard work could redefine perceptions, break down prejudices, and inspire real change. She remained humble, grounded in her community, aware that the real measure of success was not fame or recognition, but the tangible difference made in the lives of others. And as part 2 of her story concluded, it became clear that the foundation for the next chapter of her journey had been firmly established, showing that even in the face of ridicule and doubt, steadfast commitment, careful planning, and genuine care could transform challenges into triumphs, laying the groundwork for Maria to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that her ideas, dedication, and leadership mattered more than words, accents, or initial impressions. The stage set for what would come next, the world watching, learning, and preparing to witness the continued rise of a woman who refused to let mockery define her, determined instead to let results speak louder than any criticism, and with each passing day, her influence grew. Her community thrived, and the narrative of doubt and ridicule slowly shifted to one of respect, achievement, and undeniable proof of what can be accomplished when focus, perseverance, and heart lead the way.